and welcome to 9 to 42, the podcast from the team at the Guitar Show UK. Join us for interviews, updates and chat with artists, influencers and those that manufacture the gear that we love. Hello, welcome to 9 to 42, which is the podcast from the guys at the Guitar Show UK. And my very good, if slightly cheeky friend, Jason Hunt, is on screen. Jace, how the devil are you?
I'm very good, mate. I'm really good. How are you?
I'm all right. I'm not bad. I've got my COVID booster booked for Friday.
Oh, you lucky devil. Mine's the 1st of December.
Well, I might get turned away because technically it's a day early, but I think I'm probably going to just about get away with it.
I think you'll be fine.
I think I'll be fine. So I'm prepping myself for that kind of 24 hours of feeling a bit shitty that everybody keeps telling me is the booster thing.
Yeah. Yeah, you know. I was chatting to some people at uni the other day and they were telling me they'd had it and they felt awful for 24 hours.
Right, okay.
So, you know,
something
to look forward to.
And thanks for going with the word awful. It's very kind of you. And our special guest today, and I was trying to think about how the hell I was going to introduce him, but in reality, the simplest way of introducing our guest is just to tell you who it is, because that will be introduction enough. We're very pleased to have Patrick Eggle with us. Pat, how are you?
Fine, thank you. Nice to hear all about your COVID shots. Yeah,
well, welcome to 9 to 42. I mean, if you think this is going to have anything other than a bit of chatter about what's going on in our lives, you've kind of missed the point.
I haven't had my booster yet, but I'm sure I will soon.
Hopefully. Well, when are you due? We might as well find out a bit. When are you due for a booster?
I don't know. I haven't had the date yet.
Right.
I'm expecting it soon.
Right.
Yeah, just waiting for that
I'm getting old.
Yeah.
You're getting old. What, since we started this call? Is that what's doing it?
And I've been travelling recently. I went to the Netherlands last weekend and it was an absolute nightmare. If there was ever any pleasure in travel and flying to different countries, it's completely gone. That's all I can tell you about that.
Business or pleasure in the Netherlands?
It was both. Oh no, look, now someone's trying to call me.
Was it anybody exciting?
No, it was a friend of mine. We're going to a gig tonight.
Oh, who are you going to see?
I can't remember. But this is Southport. That's all I know, and he's driving.
So you're going to a gig, you're not driving, you haven't got a clue who you're going to see?
Oh, I just want to go out.
Right. Listen, in 40 minutes, you really will want to go out.
I thought we could just kind of run over your guitar building history because I interviewed Rob Williams a couple of weeks ago, who I believe at one point actually worked for you.
How is he?
He's absolutely in fine fettle.
Top chap.
Yes. Yeah, he is.
He is. Nice guy.
And he was telling me that he was 22 or something and you were about the same age. And that was the start of Patrick Eggle as it was then in 1990, something like that?
Around then, yeah.
The thing that struck me when I was chatting to Rob really was how young were you when you decided to start making guitars for a living and why?
Well, when I decided to start making guitars for a living, I was very young. I was like 15, but it didn't work out. I made one or two at home. I made one from a kit. I think it was called a double eagle or a black eagle or something, just like in the very early days, just a kit of parts.
Would it have been one of those Brandoni kits or something that was because we're about the same age and they were always being advertised in the guitar mag?
I think it was called a double eagle kit and I think I bought it from Machine Head in Hitchin.
Right.
And I remember the body was weighed about 50 kilos. It was made of really heavy mahogany laminated with something else, but it looked really cool. And that was just like a self-assembly thing. And then the first actual guitar that I made was a classical guitar that I made in my dad's workshop garden shed. which was a bit of a disaster, but it was a good experience.
Yeah.
Did everything at home with none of the proper tools or jigs or anything.
God, that's how you do it, right?
That's how you do it. That's how you do it. I hung it up over the dining table and painted the lacquer on with a brush. And it was like the whole living room, the whole house was full of cellulose fumes. A very understanding parents. But I mean, the point is that after that, I went to the London College of Furniture to kind of learn how to build guitars.
Right.
And then I tried doing it for a living when I left, and it didn't work out because I hadn't got a clue. So I kind of walked away from it, and I did other things. I worked as a groundsman, and I drove a tractor, and I fitted kitchens, and I worked in a wood machine shop, and I worked in a plastic fabrication place, and all sorts of boring jobs before I decided that I couldn't take it anymore. I had to build guitars, which I think was when I was 26.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So this would have been in Coventry.
That was down in St Albans, but so I was working on my own for a little while, out of a workshop which was in a barn that I rented on a farm. So I was building guitars in there on my own, and I had like bats nesting on the wall and horses being born around the back and all sorts of things. So it was quite rural and nice and everything, but it wasn't extremely practical. And it was while I was there that I sort of got a few dealers in the UK. I think I built my dealer network up to 12, which was quite a lot actually for one person. And I was really getting disillusioned with it again. And I went up and did the Northern Guitar Show, which was one of the guitarist shows, up at UMIST, University of
Manchester
Institute of Science and Technology. And I went up there in my mum's Allegro. I had to borrow her car, the old poo-coloured mustard.
That's
old
a good
Allegro.
shout. That's a good shout. Was it the vinyl roof version?
It wasn't the vinyl roof version, but I'll tell you what, I had all these roll-up banners and everything, all this stuff in the bag, and I couldn't close the boot. So I drove all the way up the M1 with the boot slightly open, held down with rope, and actually because of the sort of centrifugal thing, all the exhaust fumes were blowing back into the car. And by the time I got to Manchester, I was off my face. It wouldn't be allowed these days.
No.
But it was like the Wild West back then, wasn't it?
So
when you look at it.
What sort of year would that have been?
That would have been when I was about 26, 27. So I was born at the end of 64. So,
right.
Work it out, I guess. But, yeah.
Right, so that's 1990-ish.
Yeah, ish.
Right, ish.
Maybe 89.
I only went to that show once, but I've got a sneaking suspicion it might have been that year. I found my ticket the other day. I've still got my ticket.
Why?
I don't know. I really don't know. I've a fascination with keeping tickets, theatre tickets, gig tickets, football match tickets. I've got a thing full of tickets. It's about the only thing I hoard, because you can hoard them in a really small box. And I make bookmarks out of them. I laminate them and I use them as bookmarks and things like that. But I'm sure when I was going through, and I think it was because it was my first year at university and it was stuck to my notice board. And all this and everything that came off my university notice board, I've still got in a little box, including that ticket. There you are.
I have a friend down in Bristol who's got like a wall of all the tickets for all the gigs that he's been to, and it's incredible, And I saw it and I thought, God, I wish I'd done that. It's too late now. But all the great people that he's seen.
There's a picture there. There's a framed load of tickets there, Sheffield United tickets there. And then if you go up my stairs, there's 4 frames full of tickets as you go up my stairs. So two one's football, 2 gigs, and one's theatre.
It's your life, isn't it?
Exactly. You know.
To be fair, when I was in at the NEC last week sorting out the guitar show tickets, they said, "Do you want print at home tickets or actual tickets?" And I went, I still want actual tickets, please. I think it's just, it's nicer to receive than an email.
So hang on a minute. You started by ripping the piss at me on this, and now you've come back round, haven't you?
Well, I've done it for others I've done it for you. I'll give you a ticket.
I think you've done it because Patrick thinks it's a good idea as well, and you're now. Anyway.
So you get to the Iommi show, and what happens?
So got to the Iommi show, and it was kind of because I was really struggling, and I thought, I'm not really going to do this anymore. It's too hard work, and I thought I'll just do this show as a last ditch thing. And I did the show, and I sold a few bits and bobs, and I met up with this guy, Andrew, who really wanted to sort of get into the music industry as his last business before he decided to pack everything in and retire. And so I hooked up with him at that show, and he was the guy that made the sort of launch of the whole Patrick Eggle brand happen, really, and funded it and ran it and enabled me to just get on with building guitars. But it was quite a stressful 3 years, to be honest, because I didn't realise what he had planned. You know, I was just building guitars out of my shed, and I hadn't got a clue about the wider world. You know, and the next thing I knew, he'd bought this bloody great big factory, and said, "Go on then, get on with it." And we employed a few guys, and we were trying to build guitars on these benches that were being put up, and there were electricians like walking over the benches as we were trying to build things and everything. And it was just really, it was really stressful and difficult for kind of 3 years. But we did build a lot of guitars, and a lot of them were really, really nice, you know. So I think we achieved quite a lot.
So you moved from St Albans to Coventry. Were you there when it ended up in the back of Musical Exchanges?
No.
In Birmingham? No, you'd gone by that point.
I'd left by that point. Right. Basically, the company kept running out of money, right? And every time it ran out of money, it needed more investment, and everybody's shareholding got reduced, and the pressure to produce more guitars increased. And I was sort of spending most of my time sort of attending board meetings and production meetings, and not really doing anything creative at all. And it was very, very unpleasant. And in the end, I just kind of snapped, I think. And I don't really remember what the thing was that made me walk in the end, but it was something quite small and so insignificant I can't even actually remember. And on one of the last days that I was there, it might have even been the day that I left, Andrew said, "Oh, Patrick, we've got Tony Iommi in the boardroom. Do you want to come and say hello?" And I said, "No, you're all right." And I just walked out.
When you walk out, do you move to the States straight away? Or do you do something before you move?
The first thing I did was I moved back down south. I basically chucked everything that I owned pretty much then in the back of my car and drove back down to St Albans and booked a holiday. And I went away for about 3 weeks and got my head back together. And then I just sort of started again. I started working out the basement of a shop in St Albans. And just because I felt that I'd gone from sort of working on my own, doing repairs and building a few electric guitars, to suddenly having to work out how to build guitars en masse, which I guess I never did very well, to suddenly being sort of unemployed again. So I just set myself up again in the basement of a shop, doing repairs and building the odd custom guitar, and kind of going back to the beginning and learning the craft again from the beginning without being under all the pressure of having to produce 200 guitars a month or something, you know.
Yeah.
And that was a pretty good time, to be honest. I really enjoyed that.
And then how'd you get to the USA then? What kind of triggers that?
Well, while I was in the basement of the shop, I had a couple of orders for acoustic archtop guitars, which I really enjoyed building. And although it wasn't easy, because this basement, I mean, if I had my boots on, I couldn't stand up straight, and it was very limited on space. So I kind of bought a house. The house had a pretty decent sized workshop with it. And so there I am in my house building archtop guitars, selling them mainly to people in America. And the thing was that at the time, the maple and the spruce was coming from America for the guitars. The cases were coming from America. The pickups were being made in America. I think even the lacquer was coming from America. So I thought, you know, I may as well be in America because it just make everything a lot simpler. So that's how come I decided to move over there. And also round about that time, I got married and we had our first kid, Archie, you know. And so we moved over to North Carolina with one little baby. And we'd been there a week and then we realised we were going to have another one. So that was interesting. So my youngest son, Joe, was born in North Carolina. But we were only there for 2 years.
Right.
We were in a great spot. We were in near a town called Hendersonville, near Asheville in western North Carolina. It's up in the mountains. We moved over there. The first place we went was Charlotte, but it was so hot. I just couldn't bear it, to be honest with you. And I said, I've been over here before and I passed through this town called Asheville. It's up in the mountains and it's really nice. Let's try that place out, you know, because it's going to be a bit cooler.
Yeah.
So we moved up there. It was great. Rented a house and started building guitars in the basement again. Although then we were building mainly kind of flat top steel strum guitars.
Yeah, I was going to say that because you kind of, from like observing it, you know, from the outside, it looked like you started off with electric guitars, then that you'd walked away from that, and then you sort of came back and it was all acoustic instruments. Is that kind of right?
When I split with the old company, we had a bit of a kind of a gentleman's handshake agreement. It was like, you know, I'm going to carry on using my own name. And they said, well, you can't. And I said, well, I am, blah, blah. And we had a bit of a gentleman's agreement. I said, I'll tell you what, I'll just build acoustic guitars and you build electric guitars and that'll be that, you know. But, of course, the company's been sold since then. So I went back to building acoustics at the time, and then I was building archtops, then I was building flat top acoustics. And so, yeah, I've sort of dabbled in most things, really. We even built a few basses back in the old factory, but not many. But I've tried most things. But I think with electric, solid body electrics, I'm sort of back on terra firma, really. It's where I feel I like to be.
Because the acoustics were seeming to get a lot of press. I mean, you got Frank Turner playing one, hadn't you? It was Frank Turner's signature model, I think, wasn't there? Yeah. I mean, how does that come about?
How does it come about? I knew a guy who knew a guy, and somehow we got in touch. I think Frank came up here when he was. It was after he left the punk band, and just when he was starting. $1
Million Dead? Is that what they were called?
Million Dead, I think, something like that.
Yeah,
Million Dead. And I wouldn't say he was a nobody then, but he wasn't on my radar.
Yeah.
So he was just a guy that basically came in, and I think his guitar had been broken or stolen or something, and he needed another guitar, so we helped him out with that.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And then you sort of slide back into launching Patrick Eggle electric guitars.
Yeah.
And I suppose, really, I mean, every time I read a review, it's kind of like a gold award or a 10 out of 10 or something, you know, which must be quite pleasing for you.
Well, there's a lot of effort that goes into it, so it is pleasing, but it's kind of knowing the amount of work we put into it and the amount of work we put into sort of getting it right. It's not, when we get one, it's less of a, oh, that's amazing, I wasn't expecting that. Like it's more of a relief that it's all worked out and that the guy reviewing it gets it, you know, and hopefully understands what he's doing and gets what we're doing.
So where does the new company start? Because you're in Oswestry now, aren't you? Which is obviously quite away from St Albans. Oh, I think he's getting another call.
Sorry. No, it was a low power mode thing. I'm running out of battery. But we'll be fine.
We got 20% left. And we need to wrap this up quickly. We've got about 10 minutes.
I never work on anything higher than 20%.
So you how'd you end up in Oswestry with the new company?
While I was in America, we went to we exhibited at the Summer NAMM show in Nashville.
Yeah.
Probably mainly as a reason just to go to Nashville, to be honest. But so we were at the Summer NAMM show, and while we were there, I ran into an old friend of mine, Brian Cleary, who I hadn't seen for donkey's years. And the last time that I'd seen him, he'd been working for John Albee Skews and, you know, trying to sell me Kayla tremolos and all that sort of thing. And so when I ran into him, he was then one of the directors with Barnes and Mullins, and we got chatting, and they came and saw the guitars and asked if I'd like to actually get involved in their seed of a project at the time, which was Faith.
Yeah.
So what we did was we built a few Faith Carolinas, so Faith branded acoustics built in America.
Yeah.
And then a little while later, when we decided to make the move back to England, I called Brian and actually told him about it. And they said, you know, where you're moving to? And we haven't got a clue. We're just going to see where we land. And they said, well, why don't you move in with us? We're in Oswestry. And my first sort of question was, where's Oswestry? So it was great though, because having a home to move to, you know, having a place to actually move to rather than having to work out of another basement, was absolutely fabulous. And being around other people in a professional capacity that are in the same sort of business or in music industry at least, it's really good. So it really works out well. And then I got back, and then they sort of said, why don't you become more involved with Faith and do some design work for us? And then so I did the redesign on Series 2 of Faith, and that worked out really, really well.
Just as an aside, I remember when Barnes and Mullins took Faith guitars to the first ever NAMM show, and I was chatting to Alex, the as you know, but the listeners don't, the marketing director at Barnes and Mullins, and I was like, how's it going? And he went, we hadn't clicked that a guitar called Faith in America would just fly off the shelves. And just like, oh yeah.
Yeah.
So what, when you were doing the sort of like redesign of the Faith guitars, I mean, are you building prototypes in Oswestry and then kind of deconstructing them? So because I can't remember where they're made, China, Indonesia, or whatever. Is that how it works? That you actually build a prototype in the UK and then the plans are passed on to a third-party manufacturer?
Sometimes it works in different ways. A lot of the work that I did was basically building parts, as it were, or saying, look, this is how we do it on our own guitars. Why don't you copy this, like the neck joint and things like that, or the bracing pattern. So we were able to send them drawings of how we wanted them built, let them do the sort of prototypes and then sending them to us. And then we either approve them or we actually liaise with them to say what needs adjusting, And then other guitars are direct copies of ones that we were already building here.
Right.
So we could send them a guitar. I'm not sure we ever did actually do that. But the way it normally works is that we send a drawing and then we can spend some time on email or Skype or whatever it is. And they'll do their own prototypes and they'll ship them to us.
Have you had to go out to their factory and kind of advise, or has it just been UK based?
I've been out there a few times. I don't know whether advise is the right word. They're pretty good, but it's a nice place. I mean, it's a large workshop, small factory, They've got about 100 employees and they've all been there for donkey's years, and the working conditions are really good, and they work good hours and they have good holidays and pensions and all the rest of it. It's not what a lot of people think about production over there, so it's nice. It's a great workshop, and we've been working with them for years now,
Yeah, I mean, in fact, I was playing one yesterday. We've got, because I work at this music university in Birmingham, BIM, and it's got gear all over, just tons of gear everywhere. Whatever room you walk into, there's gear just lying around. And we've got, it's one of the jumbo size ones. Is that Neptune? It's one of the Naked series. Yeah. And it's a brilliant acoustic guitar. I mean, everybody loves it in the building. It's probably the most picked up guitar in the building.
Right. It's good to know.
Yeah, and they are, for what they are, ridiculously cheap, really, aren't they?
Well, I think they're fantastic value, and we do like a few limited runs where the price is a little bit higher.
Yeah.
But there's still, I mean, Alex has done this sort of comparison chart before where we look at just the actual specs of them, what you get for your money compared to other unnamed large American brands, and they do stack up really, really well. Yeah.
And I suppose then that goes on to, they relaunched Shergold as well, didn't they? And you were involved in that?
Yes. Yeah. Which was nice to be doing an electric guitar, and that's an ongoing thing. Started with the Masquerader, and then we did the single cut, and now we got further projects that we're working on as well.
With that, have you got like an original 60s, I suppose, Shergold that you kind of use as the base? I mean, I would imagine the construction is completely different to the original Shergolds.
Yes, we do. We have an original Shergold Masquerader in the building. It's in Brian's office, actually, hanging on the wall. I'm not sure what year it is. I think they're later than you realise.
Oh,
they're
right, okay.
they're kind of mid to late 70s and into the early 80s, I think.
Oh, right, okay.
But what we didn't do was we didn't stick slavishly to the original design. A few of the bits of hardware and electronics and things are no longer available anyway. They're just not manufactured. And I wanted to make it a bit more acceptable for the modern market, as it were. Because the original Masquerader was very Marmite, and even the redesign that we did is fairly Marmite. It's at least Vegemite. But
that makes a lot of sense, because the guitar, had the company not gone away, there would have been a transition anyway, wouldn't there? The instruments would have developed over time, and they would have modified, and they would have evolved. That's normal.
Yeah. That is absolutely right, and I hadn't really thought about that, but yeah, of course.
Yeah.
And
if they were still making Allegros,
sure.
they probably wouldn't look like the Allegro you drove up the M1.
Possibly not. I mean, you only have to look at the Mini and the
the Mini's a great example.
Fiat 500.
Mini's a great example.
what manufacturers and designers aim to do is to keep the spirit and the vibe of the original design that everybody loved, but to bring it up to date and make it more usable and relevant in the modern world, I suppose. Now, the guitar business, I'm sure you understand, is a really, really weird retrospective industry.
Yes.
Where everybody wants what they believe was something from the golden era in the late 50s and early 60s. And finding a really good example of a guitar of that age is very difficult. I mean, a lot of them are not that good, you know. And I used to use the example of, now what was it? Can't think of the make of car now, but there was a Japanese car and they brought out this Roadster in the early 90s, and it was supposed to be like the old MGs and things, you know.
Yeah.
But it had the spirit of that, but it didn't break down, and the ventilation worked properly and they performed well and the brakes worked and everything, you know.
Yeah.
So, unlike the sort of more modern Mini, you know, it's built in Germany and everything. So the idea is that it keeps that sort of vibe and that sort of appeal that everybody loved, but that you make something that's hopefully better built and that works and is more reliable.
Well, I suppose brings us on to your current lineup now, doesn't it? I mean, you can clearly see where the influences have come from, and they certainly have the spirit of those instruments, but they are a more refined version of those instruments, I think.
Well, they're unashamedly derivative, okay. And I mean, we can do original guitars if we want, and we might be doing that soon. But what we are trying to do is along the same lines of take that sort of original vibe and bring it up to date somewhat, you know. So we make little twists in the design and do our own thing, put our own stamp on it.
I was looking at your now. Is it Macon? Yeah, I mean, first of all, where's the name come from? Because I typed Macon into Google, and I've got it's French for builder, and I thought, oh, that's maybe where it came from.
It's interesting.
It's also a wine. It's also a Hebrew word. It's also smoked mutton and bacon together. It's a city in Georgia and a city in France. And I was like, none of these really make sense other than builder.
Well, it's a town in North Carolina as well. And
right.
And it's always been place names, you know, all the way through through my whole sort of guitar building career, really.
Oh, of course, there's the Berlin and the New Yorker.
Started off with the actual Berlin, which, when you think about it, was just when the wall was coming down and everything. So it was very relevant at the time. And then so we used, because I think the reason was Andrew said, look, if we use place names, then they can't be, the name can't be registered. You can't run into any problems using a place name because it's a place name, right?
Yeah.
You're not going to tread on anyone's feet. So it went, you know, Berlin, New York, LA, and then the bass was called the Milan. And then when I built the archtop guitars, I named them after rivers. So we had the Derwent and the Air and that sort of thing. And then with the electrics, we went back to, well, with the flat top acoustics, they were named after places in North Carolina. So Saluda and Etowah and Canoga, they all sound a little bit Cherokee because they are.
Yeah.
They're all places in North Carolina. And then we just kept with the sort of place name theme, you know, with the electrics. So we got Macon. That is obviously a place in Georgia, famous for the whole race things and everything, you know. And believe it or not, 96 is actually the name of a place.
Really?
Also, yeah.
Where's 96?
I don't know. You'll have to look at it on the map. I think it's in North Carolina.
95 and stop before you get to 97. Surely,
it's the name of a town. I promise
Wow.
you. Yeah.
I'm assuming then in America it means it came to town in 1896 or something like that.
Yeah. Who knows?
Oh,
Who knows?
wow.
But I just thought, like I don't like it's not too sort of cleverly worked out or anything. We don't have like a gang of marketing experts to sit down and do any research. We just we just sit around and basically try and come up with a fairly usable, decent name and go with that.
So you got the Oz as well, haven't you? Is that
Oz is just short for Oswestry.
I see. I thought it was short for Australia, but
I'd have gone with Oswestry if I was guessing.
yeah, I suppose I didn't really think about it. Of course. Oh, I feel really stupid now. All right, moving on. So before we started recording, you gave us a bit of a visual tour on Zoom around the building and so on. And you showed us a prototype. Are we allowed to talk about the prototype, or have we just got to pass over that and just go?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, we've got a prototype make-on single cut semi in build. So it's kind of solid just in the centre where it needs to be for the pickups and the bridge. And everywhere else is completely hollow.
So like a 335 sort of thing.
Sort of thing, yeah. And the top and the back, obviously they're carved, but they're carved from the inside as well as the outside.
Yeah.
So where the F holes are, you see the edge of the F holes, it's about 5 millimeters thick.
Right.
And it's got a carved back as well. This is the thing. So it won't have a back plate. And we've just been, the last couple of days, we've just been wrestling with the size of the F holes and talking a lot to Kieran, who's going to be the main guy responsible for getting those pots and switches in through the F hole, which nobody really enjoys, let's face it.
No. Well, okay. So when are we likely to see this available? Is this does this take 12 months when you're prototyping, or? Well,
we got a couple on order for a shop in Barcelona, our dealers over there, Fanatic Guitars. And they should have been finished last year. No, not last year. They should have been finished earlier this year. And we just haven't had the available time. So we're now trying to make it happen. And we're not really very good at building lots of prototypes before we actually jump in with both feet. But that is an actual 3D proper prototype body just to check that all the geometry works as we think it's going to work. I mean, when you do things, our guitars these days, they're all kind of drawn on AutoCAD first. So we can check all the geometry and we know that the bridge is going to fit where the bridge goes and that the pots are going to fit and everything else. So we can see that it'll work. But you still, there's no substitute for seeing an actual guitar in a 3-dimensional form.
No.
For seeing how it's going to look.
I mean, does it affect as well what type of pickups you're going to put in it? Because you're not going to know how it sounds until it's built.
What inevitably happens is we'll make a decision and then we'll build one guitar. And then the first inquiry that we get, someone's going to want different pickups, Yeah. So we were talking about that as well because it's a little bit closer to a sort of a jazz guitar or something. Sam was saying, let's just put a mini humbucker in the neck and a piezo bridge and leave it at that. And, I think someone else was for 2 gold foil style humbuckers, like super low output.
Yeah.
Humbuckers, which might be a cool way of going.
See, I thought about Filtertrons when I saw it. I thought they'd work quite nicely in it.
That'd be very cool.
Where are your pickups from? Are they Mojo, are they?
Yeah, we use Mojo and we use Cream Tea.
Right, okay.
As our 2 stock, pickups. And if somebody wants another make of pickup, another brand or something, then they're welcome to post those to us and we can use them. But it doesn't happen very often.
Right. Well, I suppose that people kind of should trust that you know what pickups sound best in your guitars. Yeah,
and the pickups that we use are great. I mean, they're great,
Both got sterling reputations in the industry, haven't they?
Yeah. And I've been working with the guys at Mojo, not quite so long, but I've been working with Mark for years.
Mm.
You know, we've got a fantastic relationship, and I just trust him to know what he's doing.
Cool.
Maybe we'll have a go at building pickups one day. I keep thinking about it. But
you need to move a basement somewhere. You need a new basement.
I do. I need another basement.
Yeah.
I need to dig down from the workshop we're in now.
I'm getting that. I think this story needs another basement in it at some point. It's been too long between basements.
Yeah, I mean, looking at your office, it's just too light and airy. What's next, really? Well, what's Patrick James Eggle Guitars doing moving forward?
Moving forward, I think the answer to that is probably just going to be to consolidate on what we do already and sort of refine the line a little bit. We haven't got any more well, I'm just sort of negotiating with Brian for some more space now, but we haven't got much more space that we can basically take up where we are. And where, like, you see that wall behind me?
Yeah.
That's the order wall. So every one of those leaflet holders, that's a month next year, and we're just about filled up next year. So we're just about any new orders now are going into sort of October, November.
Wow.
And we've got October, November, and December. Like all 2/3 full. So I think we only need about another 20 guitars ordered, and that's next year booked out. So we're not kind of chasing after sales or anything particularly. I think we just want to work a bit harder on the guitars we already make and just think of ways to make them better, make them more efficiently, set the workshop up so that we will have more fun while we're doing it, which is important. Because, like, if it becomes a chore, right, building guitars, then I think it reflects in the finished guitar, in the instrument, and if everyone's having fun and, coming up with ideas and doing interesting things, then it's all good.
Excellent.
And that's the way it needs to be.
Cool.
I was slightly concerned for the lads in Barcelona, or whoever they are in Barcelona, when I saw your order wall, because they're never going to get that semi, are they? They're ready to go. I think you need to, pop a special little Barcelona sheet in there.
A Barcelona month.
Yes, yeah. Barcelona month if need be.
And if you need anybody to take them over, I'm more than happy to do that. Right. I love Barcelona.
Okay. Well, we could go and record a pod, Jace. We could go and, record the reactions of Patrick guitars as they get their new Eggles.
Well, any excuse, eh?
Yeah,
absolutely, any excuse.
It's a fantastic place.
It is. It is a great place.
If only there was some way to get some decent food and a nice cup of coffee, though.
Yes. Oh, I had a job interview once for a company in Barcelona, and they flew me out. It was the first time I'd ever flown business class anywhere, which was a remarkable experience. And then they put me in a suite in a 5-star hotel, took me around the factory where they wanted me to be the salesperson for in England, spent a load of money on food. They even bought me cigarettes, which of course in Spain is like about £2 sort of thing. And they offered me the job, and I turned them down, having had that wonderful weekend free in Barcelona.
And on the back of that story, that's the last time anybody's going to treat you that way.
Yeah. Well, kind of work for myself now, don't I? So it's all over.
Freedom. Or so you think.
Yeah.
Well, Pat, thanks for finding the time. The only question I've got, or the only thing I've got left, I'm really intrigued about, is I'm desperate to know who you're going to see tonight, but you don't know either, so there's no point following up on that.
I'll ping you a message. I'll let you know.
Right,
excellent.
We'll put it in the show notes.
All I know is the guy that's doing the driving arranged it, and he's got pretty decent taste.
Right.
So I trust his taste, and we'll just see. I think it's going to be blues, so it'll be a small club full of grey-haired old men and real ale. I think that's what it's going to be.
That doesn't sound too bad for a night out.
That's the worst way to spend an evening.
It's our age.
Yeah.
Is there anything else before I toddle off?
We'll take that. Is there anything else as a nice way to finish? as a good way.
Well,
to
I had to fill the silence with something.
Yeah. We normally leave.
What else would you like to know?
I can't think of anything. What football team do you support?
I used to support Arsenal.
Right. Okay. Why?
Just being the because I don't really follow the leagues anymore. I sort of, when the World Cup's on, I get reignited like a lot of people. But I used to support Arsenal when I was a kid, just because they were the most local North London team, I suppose.
Yeah.
It was that or Watford or Luton. So
Yeah. I can see why you chose Arsenal. Yeah.
Yeah, I get that. There can't be a lot of football really around Oswestry, is there?
Well, there's Wrexham. There's Wrexham that those two Hollywood guys have just bought.
It's Ryan Reynolds, isn't it?
Ryan Reynolds and his mate have just bought Wrexham. And it just seems a bit odd.
It's a great story, that. They actually do. They come and watch, don't they? They actually
they do
take an interest.
They do. And with not to upset anybody from Wrexham, but it was like, have they seen Wrexham? Do they know? I mean, it's not quite like Hollywood.
No. You just go past the Sports Direct, and it's a bit further on, isn't it? I mean, it's not.
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah. It's funny enough because the coach of my eldest son's football team used to play for Wrexham.
Really?
Yeah.
There you go.
So
Football chat.
Football chat on 9 to 42. Fantastic. Football chat with Patrick Eggle. No. Anyway, Patrick, thank you very much. It really has been superb. We will wrap it up there. And as I say, thanks for your time. And that whistle stop zoom. In fact, if we've got the recording of that, might even see if we can edit that bit of video with no audio on it and share it with people. That kind of whistle stop thing.
Yeah, sure.
Okay with you? Yeah,
definitely. Yeah.
See if we can speed it up and put Benny Hill music on.
Yeah, well, I was just thinking that. I was just thinking for us that would work quite well, wouldn't it? Really, or something from Carry On with our background. But yes. Well, thanks a lot, and we will no doubt speak to you soon. Jace, I'll talk to you anon.
All right, mate. Bye-bye.
Cheers, guys.
And that was Patrick Eggle. And the only reason we're talking to you now is because, as per, we've forgotten.
Terrible.
I know. The thing is, I mean, we've got a reputable company, a PLC no less, who've offered to sponsor and continue to sponsor this podcast, and we can't even remember to thank them.
I know, it's terrible, isn't it? And to make matters worse, I mean, I spoke to two of them on Friday, which is appalling, isn't it?
Well, I suppose we'd recorded that one by then.
That's true.
So Patrick had been recorded by then. Because we recorded Patrick on Wednesday, didn't we?
Yes, we did.
Last week. So that's not an excuse.
No, it's not an excuse. It's just terrible.
So apologies to Focusrite, who continue to support the podcast, even though we're relatively shit at either plugging their product or them.
But we did warn them at the very start.
We did. We did say we'd be about... Well, we said we'd be about like this, didn't we, really?
Yeah. We haven't lied at any point.
No. So in which case, then, I'm going to bring this round again. Focusrite, you're pretty much getting what you expected. and you've not had the decency to say thank you.
Yeah. No, they have. They have said thank you, yeah.
Well, they say thank you to you, you see. They don't want to have anything to do with me.
It's understandable.
Oh, yeah, it's fair. It's absolutely fair. I'm not allowed out, am I?
I'm really? The Grand Fromage.
Yes, you are indeed the Grand Fromage. But what a great chat that was with Pat. We both listened back to it today, haven't we? And it was really nice.
Yeah, it was quite funny.
Yeah,
and he did tell me he did send me an email with who he was going to see, and I've completely forgotten.
All right,
but it was very much in the vein of a blues artist that I suspect got grey-haired gentleman watching in a little club.
Right, so real ale and an extended pentatonic wankfest.
Quite possibly, yes.
Right, okay. What a great name for a blues band.
No.
Extended pentatonic wankfest.
It's not going to work on a poster.
Is it not?
No.
All right, okay. I think it depends where you are. I don't think anybody in Darlington would give that a second glance.
No. Where was he going? Stourport on 7, was it? He was going? Something
Stourport,
like
yeah.
that.
Yeah. Cool. Well, we've since then, we've recorded another one, haven't we? We chatted to Paul Lacey.
No, Paul Sayer.
Paul Sayer. Where have I got Lacey from?
Oh, I have no idea.
Where's Paul Lacey? I don't know where that's come from.
Yes, we chatted to Paul Sayer from the temperance movement.
That's right. It was, yes. Sorry, Paul. I do apologise. I'm still coming down from my COVID booster.
Oh, yeah. Did you have side effects?
I took a turn for the worse yesterday afternoon. Yeah, and I had
At
a
the
horrible
football?
afternoon and evening. No, we didn't lose, so the football was a bit of a shock to the system.
It was a thrilling 0-0, wasn't it?
It was a thrilling 0-0, yes, against Coventry, and then I took a turn for the worse. I started feeling a bit rough at the football, and then I had a horrible afternoon and evening, and a really weird night's sleep. But it was fine this morning.
Oh, good.
So it is that kind of 8-12 hour sort of thing. You know,
I'll look forward to it in 10 days' time.
It wasn't awful in the way that you predicted, so it was one of those things. Anyway, we better wrap up because we're talking nonsense, aren't we?
Yes, you are.
Yes, okay. Well, we'll see you next time for Paul Sayer.
Paul Sayer.
Yes.
Temperance movement.
Indeed. And we'll have to try and find out if Paul Lacey is an artist that we can perhaps talk to in the future.
Okay. We'll get him on.
Oh, what a knobber. Oh, dear. All right, Jace, I'll see you soon.
See you, mate.
Thanks for listening to 9 to 42, the podcast from the team at the Guitar Show UK. If you've enjoyed the show, then please remember to hit the subscribe button and share with other like-minded souls. For more information about 9 to 42, please follow us on Facebook, Twitter or Instagram at the Guitar Show UK. This has been an A Short Stories production.